So today I'm going to share a business strategy with you that real estate brokerages use themselves in their own business strategy, but they don't share it with us agents. It's a quantum leap in business, and it's how I sold over 2,000 homes in a city I wasn't from. Okay?
Okay.
Now, I know that time is our most valuable asset, right?
Yes.
So I want to thank you for showing up. And I want you to leave here today knowing how you could implement a quantum leap that could add 6 to 7 figures to your bottom line. Okay.
All right.
So I'm going to start with the opportunity. So I'm going to pull this up and share my screen. Now, what we're looking at here is the 2025 NAR member profile. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So these are all of the agents in the system, and they do this report every year. The volume of existing home sales remains just over 4 million, the lowest level since 1995. That makes you a little anxious, doesn't it?
Yep. Yep.
It makes
Yep.
me anxious as a real estate agent. It can make you pretty darn anxious reading that. And then you read down it says 74% of realtors are very certain they will remain in the market. Well, what does that mean? 26% aren't certain they're going to continue, right?
Right.
So then you look at the numbers here. Who's doing the majority of the business? 6 years or more in the business. And these 16 years or more in the business are doing 27%. But when you look
Okay.
down here, they're 73% certain they're going to keep going. So the group that does the majority of the sales is the largest group that doesn't know if they're going to keep going, right? There's a lot of them in there. 18% are somewhat certain. Here we have the average number of transactions for those agents that are thinking about leaving. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Is that
So,
annual?
yes, these are annual transactions, 10 transactions.
Okay.
So if we're talking about 1.4 million members of NAR, 26% aren't certain they're going to continue. That's anywhere from 3 to 400,000 small businesses that will die.
Hmm.
If the average agent does 10 transactions a year and their gross average commission for those 10 transactions is $10,000, which isn't too far off, right?
Okay.
That's $100,000 a year in production per agent, right here, per agent. That
Right.
means there's a 300 to or 30 to 40 billion dollar opportunity to pick up that business,
Gotcha.
right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what does that make you think after you see the numbers,
There's opportunity.
right? Do you feel confident that you could benefit from that opportunity?
Yeah. Yeah. There's
How?
opportunity there. There's opportunity. There's a
Yeah,
chance to go and have business right there waiting.
that's right. That's right. Hey, Mark, would you drop the link to the 2025 NAR profile in the chat box so Maurice can download that if he likes? I get this directly off of the NAR website, okay?
All right. Thank you.
Now, would it be okay with you if I shared a little bit of my story?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, there's Marta. Okay. Um, well, a little bit about my story. Here's my first real estate interview, okay?
Okay.
I walked into real estate office with my license thinking everybody wants the agents, right?
Yeah.
No, no. She looked at me. I'm 21 maybe, I think. And she says, honey, you're not from here. You don't know anybody. You don't have a database. You really should find another career.
Mm.
I
Wow.
was devastated. I walked out of there thinking, I'm going to have her job one day and I'm going to give everybody a chance.
Okay.
Well, she was right. I did not have a database. And it looks like my screen keeps going blurry. Sorry about that. Gonna have to fix a setting. But I did buy a little foreclosure when I was in college and I lived in it and I remodeled it and I sold it 2 weeks later for 40,000 more than I bought it. And I thought, holy cow, that's when I went and bought two and I got into flipping properties. And the
Hmm.
agent who sold me the property needed someone to de-trash and mow the yards of her foreclosures. And was that part of my plan?
No.
No, but it was an opportunity I jumped on so I could see the properties first before
Okay.
all the other investors.
Right.
Talk about
Smart.
starting from
Smart.
the very bottom. I scraped dead cats out of carpets,
Mm.
okay? I did the worst of the worst. So I hung my license with that listing broker. And while I did well, I couldn't be a listing agent, so I was really capped. And
Okay.
I was working with investors. Well, in 2005, the financing for those investors started drying up. And I just had my first son. I left my social work job and was doing real estate full time. And 6 months in, my husband was diagnosed with cancer. I
Mm.
was supporting the household. The coastline numbers were looking scary for foreclosures. The cheese had moved, and I didn't know where the business was.
Okay.
And it was list to last in real estate, right?
Hmm.
So, with that, I started looking at where's the business. The coastline numbers were different. So, I'm like, what's going on there? Well, another broker had reached out and invited me to lunch. Her name was Susan Kitzsteiner at Reese Nichols, and she had seen my numbers as a buyer's agent and took me to lunch, one of those recruiting lunches. Well, I didn't want to leave my security, right? I had made $80,000 as a buyer's agent, and it's the most amount of money I had ever made before. So I was really scared to leave that brokerage and take a leap. Well, years of discussing and talking about opportunity, Susan said that she had some agents in her office that were looking to retire and did some of the same type of business that I did. So she just introduced us. Well, I started having lunch with them to learn more about their business and how they wanted to retire. And it was a good hour that we would spend each time talking, but it took us a year to finally come to terms. And so that one conversation led to three partnerships. I then adopted three different real estate agents' businesses. And then in 2009, they faded out, and I was able to open five different locations and became the listing agent across Missouri and Kansas, and personally sold over 2,000 homes from the KC location.
Awesome.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
So, what if in 1 year from now you made more money than you ever thought possible, right? Because
Hmm.
it's serious. My family's life changed forever, forever. And Susan, my guide, that one introduction, well, she became one of my closest people in my life. And I feel a deep responsibility to her. And she gave me something most realtors never get, a succession plan, right? And a business handoff, a chance to carry on someone's life work. And most brokers, they don't even realize what they get to offer. So fast forward 2015, I wanted a new challenge and I was ready to step into that next path where I'm like, I was going to have that lady's job one day. So I'm going after it. And I became a broker at Reese Nichols.
Okay.
And I managed other agents for 6 years at Lee Summit and Overland Park and up north. And I got to see behind the scenes of how all the other successful agents and realtors were and all these different business models and which business models worked. Okay. And I then handed my business off to my successor. So the listings I was taking care of, I then handed off to another successor and was able to then sell my business. 2021 rolls around and my son is struggling at 15, and I couldn't be away from the house for 10 hours a day.
Hmm.
So I attacked it like a full-time job. I left Reese and spent time with my son, and we found an incredible clinic in Chicago. If anyone ever needs help with teenagers that and you want to take care of them and learn everything there is to know about their brain, I know a great clinic. But he's doing fabulous now, but I did have
Awesome.
to find something to do from home. So, what I did was put together a program of everything I saw what worked in all the other businesses, right? And everyone I worked with and all of my coaching. So, I want to talk about you and your business for a bit, okay?
Okay.
We talked about your current database, and you have about 100 people in your database right now.
Yes.
So, what if you could instantly add 250 people that are warm leads that you would invite to a holiday party? All the CRM stuff. Do you have all your people in your CRM, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to show you the math behind the magic so that as you build out your database, you identify and understand where the value is. Okay, I
Hmm.
want you to feel empowered. Let me pull these numbers up. Share my screen. Okay. Most realtors don't know what their business is worth. So you keep working and you keep working, and you don't know if your asset is ever going to pay off. And in business, all business owners have a value to their business. Realtors should as well. So I want you to know these numbers, okay? How many
Okay.
people are in your qualified database? So you said that you have 100 people. So, with those 100 people, have you spoken to each one of them? And you know that if they knew somebody that was buying or selling and they were just in a nice conversation, that they would refer you as their realtor.
I have not.
That is a qualified database. And so it's a reason to reach out, but most people are too uncomfortable to do that. So they don't even know the real value of their business. They don't know who would be referring them or who to invest money in. So that's why we want you to know how many people do you have in your qualified business, qualified database. And Maurice, nobody else has to know this number but you until you're
Just
ready to sell it. But you need to know. Then you
Okay.
need to know how many transactions you did the prior year and what percentage did you receive from your database in referrals, not in purchased leads.
Okay. Sorry, I'm writing at the same time.
Okay, so let's do an example. You have 300 people in your qualified database.
Okay.
60% of your 22 homes sold last year came from your database. 22 homes times your 60%, that's 13.2 homes that came from your database, right?
Okay.
You would feel confident knowing your database generated 13 deals last year. It's that simple. So let's assume your average commission is 7,000 per transaction. You
Hmm.
had 13 deals times 7,000. You earn 91,000 from your database. So your business, your database made you 91,000 last year. That is a business that, you have some write-offs, but you're always looking for write-offs because you don't even have that much in overhead. Then you take your database income and divide it by the number of people. So if it's a $91,000 in income divided by 300 people, you know your average person in your database is bringing a value of $303.
Okay. Never looked at it that way. Okay.
So knowing it from that perspective, and you haven't looked at it like that, what
No.
does it make you think?
It said some insight on looking at this in a different way. Uh, I guess I've never put it in that perspective. I knew that it was a business of my own that I would be operating and generating the way that I put the effort into doing it, but I never looked at the dollar figure as that's beneficial information right there. It looks like it makes you look at your sphere of influence a little different.
Right,
Yeah,
right. And how can I increase that dollar value?
correct.
With the same time you're already putting in. And all of a sudden, you want to qualify those people in your list of 100 because each one of them could be worth a $300 bill.
Correct. Gotcha.
Now, say you want to know for projection. Say you would be interested in adopting someone else's business, an agent that might be retiring next year when you're ready to step in, right?
Yes.
Well, right now, the average years a seller is staying in their home is 10 years, meaning 1 in 100 people will be moving in 1 year. So, how many people in your database? You have 300 divided by 10. That's 30 opportunities per year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
And with you starting with a smaller database, it's not overwhelming. It gets overwhelming really fast. So start qualifying that database immediately.
Okay.
So you know how many opportunities you actually have in that database and where you'll spend money doing pop buys or inviting to dinner.
Okay.
So your database isn't just a list, it really is a predictable income machine if you narrow it down right. But you have to have a healthy database, okay?
Okay.
And so I will a little bit later provide a database calculator so that you can plug in the numbers of your own database and plug in the numbers of somebody else's database so you can project how much somebody's business is worth that you might want to adopt. And then on the second tab, it will have a very detailed, healthy database checklist so that you can score somebody's business that you might want to purchase or take over. Okay.
Okay.
But once you build this business, You don't have to give it away. And most realtors just walk away. And I
Gotcha.
have wonderful friends in our industry walking away and simply becoming invisible. And I don't want that to be anybody on this call, right?
Okay.
I went to lunch with an agent for her 86th birthday yesterday, and around the table were other women that were in their later 60s. And they don't know how much longer they want to do this. They don't even want to be here in the winter, but they're just kind of fizzling away. And I ask them, why haven't you partnered or why haven't you sold your business? What do you plan on doing when you decide to stop selling? And they don't have a plan.
Mm.
And when I ask them about their database, they say it's too disorganized, right? Nobody could make sense of this. And they feel a little bit of shame and insecurity. So then they avoid it. But they're still closing 10 or more properties a
Awesome.
year consistently, right?
Hmm.
Because people know to reach out to them. So there's three steps you can transport your business into a clean, organized, valuable business. And pillar one is the build. And that's the tedious, boring, awful stuff of building out your database. But if you don't build it out and automate it, you have that belief if I slow down, everything's going to fall apart. So you have to get your business systems implemented first, foundationally. We like to put new agents out and just get a sale because once you get a sale, you learn the transaction. But I'm all about the business fundamentals, okay?
Okay.
And so you need to maintain and automate what needs to be consistent. And it's that messaging because you need to be out in front of everyone, right?
Yes.
And once you have that kind of database and a predecessor that might purchase the business, then they can have an income stream that continues after they step away, right? It'll continue for a few more years and it supports the payoff through rev share. So then we come to pillar two, the offer. Being prepared with your terms and being ready for the opportunity when it shows up. Okay?
Yes.
Know what a great offer would be for you. What does it look like, and what do you need to be able to step away from your business or buy into someone else's? So, for you to buy into someone else's database, what would that offer look like to you? And once you have that offer like massaged out somewhat, you have a good outline of what you would do to step into someone's business, you know what to look for and identify so that you can have that perfect partnership. It's once you get your offer that you're like, okay, now I know who to look for. Then it's all about re-engaging the database with a consistency plan, right? Automating all the newsletters and lead magnets and all the communication to that new database with both of you on it. You want to have a good, clear exit plan for them so that they can leave with dignity, peace, and purpose. They want to mentor on their way out. So some of them, not so much. They're a little cranky and they're kind of done. And that's what happened to me. So later on, I will go through the mistakes to avoid in putting your agreement together that I learned the hard way with three different database adoptions. But this could help you, Maurice, not feel like you're starting from scratch
Gotcha.
and that you're building something that's going to last. And you're adopting a business that's already been established. And so it starts with the conversation, like Susan. gave to me. It stirred the soup, it stirred something up, right? Just one
Hmm.
conversation. Now, have you ever heard of W. Clement Stone?
Negative.
Okay. He was best friends with Napoleon Hill. Have you heard of Napoleon Hill? He's an
Mm.
author. Anybody else here on the call a Napoleon Hill fan? Where's my Napoleon Hill fans? Nobody? Think and Grow Rich. Oh my gosh, it's such a good book. Okay. That is one that you're going to need to read, Maurice, or listen to audiobook.
All right.
It's Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich and
All right.
Outwitting the Devil. Those two are my two favorites from Napoleon Hill. Well, I'm going to tell you a story about W. Clement Stone. He was Napoleon Hill's BFF, right? He
Okay.
was a multi millionaire. And he attributed his self made wealth to saying one phrase and one phrase over and over and over every day. He gave over $265 million away to charity.
Hmm.
He was amazing. But he said this phrase 100 times a day: do it now. It was said that he lived in a high rise apartment building in New York City. And he would make himself say this phrase 100 times before he hit the bottom floor. So
Oh.
he would try and say it as many times as he could until he hit the bottom floor. And then he had everybody in his business. When you get on the elevator, you got to say it, right? Say, do
Hmm.
it now, do it now. He'd be in the elevator, right? Think about him in this beautiful suit, right? Do it now, do it now, do it now. W. Clement Stone understood that the number one enemy of wealth is not mindset, it's delay.
Mm.
hmm Napoleon Hill says it like this: successful people make decisions quickly and change them very slowly. Unsuccessful people make decisions very slowly and change them often and quickly. Woo! Eileen Wilder, one of my coaches, she says procrastination is the assassination of your destination. Woo!
Good stuff.
I didn't know how to list foreclosures or talk to banks. But I did fly to Dallas. I did talk to all of my asset managers. I looked at all the other city activities. I didn't know what I was doing, but I jumped in and I went from one closing a month to over 30 closings a month myself, let alone what my other team members did. So there exists for you right now the ability to take that quantum leap, not the trudging and trudging and trudging of building up that database. So I'm about to show you how to skip the steps. Okay, Maurice?
Okay.
Listen to the definition of quantum leap. It's an explosive jump that a particle of matter undergoes in moving from one place to another. In fact, they say a light particle can appear and it's suddenly here. And then, like a second later, it's right over here. This is what a physicist studying quantum mechanics says. It occurs without apparent effort and without covering all the bases before starting and ending points. That was my business. How many of you would love to take a quantum leap in your business, right? Everyone else is trudging through this market and worried about how slow it is when there's an opportunity for a quantum leap.
Mm.
But right before you take a quantum leap, Maurice, the enemy in your thoughts will start telling you things like, I don't even know how to go about selling or buying a database, right?
All right.
These feelings of anxiety and overwhelm, they can start to settle in. And you'll start to hear thoughts in your mind like, who am I to adopt someone else's legacy or to even leave a legacy? Well, you know you have an enemy in your thoughts, right?
Yeah.
Some people call him the devil. Some people call him the adversary. Some people call it resistance. There is a great book by Stephen Pressfield. It's called The War of Art. I love that book. He says the greater the resistance, the greater the reward. And you can feel that resistance as I tell you to qualify that database, right?
Right.
It's not the art of war, it's the war of art. You have to put yourself out there. Well, that's the enemy in your thoughts. And the enemy in your thoughts, he's got one goal. His goals are to keep you broke, busted, and disgusted. But here's the thing, the battle that's raging in your mind, it's not even about you, really. It's over your legacy, right? Not
Yes.
you in today. It's about you in the future. It's over those you're called to reach, the impact that you could be leaving in someone, like what was done for me. So, the
Mhm.
reason for the resistance is this: the enemy knows if he can can rob you of your identity, he can rob you of your legacy. Well, here's the thing. This is how you beat the enemy. Just like W. Clement Stone did, just like I did, and all the great agents did, you punch him in the face with words
Mm.
spoken out loud. W. Clement Stone's words were, do it now. So you guys say it. Say it. Do it now. That's what beats the enemy. And some of you guys, well, you need to get a little fire in your belly because the enemy's stolen years from you. He's made you cry, tears that you didn't deserve. He's taken things from you and your family. So you need to get a little fire in your belly and say, I don't have any more patience for staleness or invisibleness because there's a battle before every breakthrough. We all know this. There's a setback before every comeback, and there's a declaration that unlocks every destiny. So if you want to have a legacy, you got to get very good at taking fast and imperfect action. How many of you are willing to do that? It's not going to be perfect, but you got to move forward. Come on. Seriously, I don't see any other faces. Nobody can show me a face on here. Everybody's marked off and nobody's in it. Man, come on, guys. We got to show up for ourselves, right? If you
Yeah.
want to leave a legacy, you got to make action and be in it. If you're feeling overwhelmed, what do? We shout, do it now. If we're feeling incapable, what do? We shout, do it
Now.
now. If we're feeling insecure, what do?
I'll do it now.
You gotta do it now. So, did you know that 2/3 of God's name is go?
Mhm.
The world needs what you have alone to offer. Maurice, you might feel like, well, I'm new. What do I have to offer? You have so much energy, so much knowledge that someone needs someone to step in for them. The world needs what you alone have to offer. Use your words and punch the enemy in the face. And somebody better say, do it now. I don't
Do it
see your
now.
faces, but I hope you're saying, do it now.
Got you.
When's a good time to get started?
Right now.
Okay. So the number one enemy of wealth is not mindset. It's not your daddy issues. It's not your past. It's
Got you.
delay.
Got you. Got you. Got you.
It's delay. And Susan made such an impact in my life with one conversation. She checked in, made sure I was on my feet, but she didn't know the inside of the business either. She didn't know how to set up an agreement for us either. So, what I want to do is walk you through it. I've been there and I want to help. So, from my experience, I had over 2,000 sales, right? So,
Yeah.
say even if my minimum commission was just $1,500 a transaction, that's $3 million in gross commission income, three partnerships, making them $1 million partnerships. Did their business do that when I started with them? No. You know what it did? It didn't fall backwards because they had all the relationships. Nope. It grew exponentially. I
Mm.
grew it. They weren't selling 30 transactions a month. They didn't have the systems to support that. It can grow if you lean into it. So, how many of you heard the old saying, realtors don't die, they simply become listless? Have you heard that?
Nope. First time.
Oh, I hate that. Jerry Reese used to say that in our meetings sometimes, and oh my gosh. It and then he would just hand it over to some financial advisor that came in to talk to us about um, putting money with them and buying a whole life insurance, right? They never taught us how to retire.
Mm.
So we don't know. So are you the agent who will continue someone's legacy or lose your own? Be a legacy. Start as a legacy. Maurice, I want you to think of yourself already as a legacy. I'm going to be a legacy. Okay.
All right.
A lot of people have gone further than they thought they could because someone else thought they could. Zig Ziglar,
Hmm.
right? We
Right.
need to help the other agent out as well, and they're going to see you and want to help you. Be someone people want to help and leave their legacy with. John Wooden stated, "Your legacy is not what you leave for people, it's what you leave in people." I say legacy over listless. Agents are going to be legacy over listless. I am a legacy. In real estate, we learn everything is negotiable. So
Hmm.
we're going to take a little bit of a break. And after break, we're going to walk through some options and things to consider. Okay.
Okay.
So we're at 10:45. And if we can break for 5 minutes and we'll come back. Does that sound good? Because
Okay.
we're going to go into a lot more here in just a little bit. And that way everyone can kind of catch up with where we're at. Okay.
All right.
All right. Everybody else here, so we're going to do a 5 minute break and be back. Okay. Hey, okay. Any ahas so far? Anybody want to share an aha? Maurice, I think you're the only one that's talking.
Okay.
I appreciate you so much.
Not a
So,
problem.
Maurice, have you had an aha moment today?
Yeah, I wrote down a couple of the books to read. The quotes, I like to do it now. That's a motivational thing that I could see myself possibly incorporating.
Yeah, love it. Love it. Kenny, welcome to the show. Hey, Kenny, have you had any aha moments yet today?
I wouldn't classify anything yet as an aha moment, but I am taking lots of notes.
Have you considered adopting someone else's database or
No,
selling
never.
your own?
No, not yet. But now, I mean, since this started, thinking about it.
Okay, okay. Were you here to see what the opportunity is out there and how much of it there is?
Yes,
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I love it. It's got your brain pumping. That's a good thing, right? Because you use that reticular activating center, the RAC, and as you start looking, it's the same theory as you buy a red car, like a certain model, and then all of a sudden you see that same model all over town. Well, by learning about this, it's igniting that RAC in your brain so that you'll start seeing the opportunity around you.
Awesome.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, now here's an example of kind of what you'd want to look for, right, Kenny? And if you're interested in 300 warm leads and maybe working on a relationship, Maurice is interested. Well, here's an example, okay? I have a friend in the business, and let's call her Anne. That'll be easy. She's 63. Her husband retired a few years ago, and he got his license to kind of help her out occasionally, right? Well, she sold anywhere from 12 to 22 homes a year for the last 3 years. So, looking at her last 3 years, she's doing anywhere from 12 to 22. But last year was a tough year, right? So that's when she dropped to 12. So it's slowly been going down. She said it was almost more trouble than it was worth last year, but she loves what she does. She can't really pinpoint how her business comes in because it just does. And she's done it for so long. She sends calendars out twice a year, like Royals and Chiefs calendar, and it's about 75 people she sends it to. And most everyone is a contact in Outlook. But other than that, she doesn't even CRM. So, do you think if she keeps going the way she is in her business, will her business increase in value or decrease in value?
Yeah, probably decrease.
It's something you can't really tell because what do you measure it against? Where are her KPIs? Where's her conversions at? We don't even know where her business comes from. It's tough. She doesn't even know what she would do if she stopped selling. She
Hmm.
just doesn't want to do so much. Do you think that's something that could be negotiated out in an agreement? She wants to
Yeah,
do a little bit of business, right?
yeah, it's getting closer to retirement. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Do you think she could have an incredible impact on someone's life if she just decided to give 18 months to a partnership and a small investment for a huge reward?
Yes.
Yeah. But maybe she heard that in her head, that enemy. Who would want to buy my database? I know her. That's what she's thinking. It's a mess. It's an Outlook. It's not graded. She doesn't even know what's in there. Who would ever want to partner with me, is her thought. Whew, all those things. Instead of just doing it now, instead of just stepping in and stirring it up to see what she could get, she stops.
Mm.
Bruce Lee says if you spend too much time thinking about a thing, you'll never get it done. I love me some Bruce Lee. Martin Luther says, how soon not now becomes never. Well, I say the longer you stall, the less your impact. The easier it is for the enemy to steal your identity of leaving a legacy. And I believe in legacy over listlessness. You guys have so much opportunity around you. When I gave you that example of Anne, did a few people pop in your head? Maybe one? If nobody popped in your head, how would you get around those people? How could you meet those people, right?
Mhm.
The abundance is all around us, but the enemy in our head is like blocking our eyesight too. And when we talked about the reticular activating center, about what is all around us and the abundance all around us, it goes all the way back to the beginning of life with the very first temptation in history of the world, right? In the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve. It was the temptation to focus on lack. That's what happened there. God told Adam and Eve, every tree in the garden you may freely eat, right? Freely eat. Are those abundance words or lack words?
Abundance.
Those are
Opportunity. Yeah.
abundance words. That's right. And then he said, don't eat off of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. How many trees is that?
Wow.
One tree. They had everything freely. They lacked only one thing, and it was in the middle of the garden, right? They had to walk past all these other trees, right? All these other trees. They had to walk past all of them to even get to the tree of good and evil. They walked past all of the abundance in their life. And right now in your life, you have to walk past all of your abundance to get to your lack. The abundance and the lack, they're both there, okay? But you get the one that you focus on every time. So don't focus on the lack, it perpetuates lack. Okay?
Right.
All right. What makes that business sellable? What gives it all of that value? Marta and I are going to have an incredible announcement at the end of the webinar, okay? To help you get your business tight and consistent. So I want to pop up in the chat box, if you would, Mark, pop in the database calculator. Did we put that link in there earlier? No. Okay. So I want to show you something else. I'm going to share my screen. You all have probably seen this, right? One after the other after the other. All these brokerages are buying each other up, aren't they? What are they buying? Kenny, what are they buying? I love it.
So, as I keep echoing and everybody in the group, what are
What
they
do you
buying?
think they're buying with all this?
Well, I want to give you like a factual word answer, but I believe you're looking for a concept. Sounds to me like maybe they're buying opportunity.
Yeah, it's all about money, right? It's all about money. It's business. That's okay. That's what it's supposed to be about. It's all about money. So, what makes up that money? All the agents' sales, right? And what makes the majority of the sales? Their databases. So, they're buying a collection of real estate agents. Why don't the brokerages teach the agents how to buy each other's businesses? Why don't they share this business plan? Right? That is the opportunity that's there.
Come on.
You guys need help with something?
No,
Okay.
we just had a technical difficulty on our end. Sorry.
Okay, no
Got mute
worries.
button.
No worries. Okay. So let's talk about the mistakes, right? How many of you believe that you learn more from your mistakes than you ever do from what we are taught? I know I do. I learn a lot more from my mistakes. So I'm going to put these up because these are going to be some good notes here for you. So I'm going to share my screen. Boop, boop. Share one. Okay. Mistake number one. I didn't have a specified end date. So when I first started working, I was just excited. Okay. Before I started coaching all of this and adopting databases, I made some tough mistakes because I did the do it now, right? We
Mm.
weren't going to get it perfect, but I was going to get it done. And so I'm going to share some of the things. I started with this older gentleman when I was 8 months pregnant. I was 8 months pregnant when I finally started working with him. And I was put in this closet office with him. And so just imagine my big belly going into this closet office and like pushing past his desk with my big belly and knocking stuff off to get to the back of the closet where my desk was, right? My partners were kind, but they were very distant. We had no real connection. So it was stressful. My son was born. I was back to work in 2 weeks. I didn't want them to think I was going to take this opportunity for granted. I'd drive home the 4 blocks to nurse and come back to the office. I wanted my partners to know I was committed. I was committed. So, us assessors out there like Maurice or Kenny, who's interested in the idea of adopting someone's database, well, they're going to be open hearted and ready to serve someone's legacy. The successors don't usually take it for granted, they are incredibly grateful. There's an influencer that I follow, Cody Sanchez. Anybody know who Cody Sanchez is? She wrote the book Main Street Millionaire. It is fabulous. She says you win by acquiring, systemizing, and improving what already works. And so that's what I did here. But the agreement didn't have a finish line. You see, there was no end date. We basically said, we'll do this partnership until they retire. So all three of them, which one of them retired within 4 months, and then two of them stayed 3 years.
Mm.
The problem, people don't retire cleanly. They taper off, they slow down, they change their mind. Kind of like Anne in that story. Their life circumstances will shift and they just prioritize other things. So without an end date, there's no clarity, no measurement, no point where we evaluated whether this partnership was even working. We had no milestones. It created unnecessary stress and guesswork for everyone. But you know what feeling I had? I got resentful. I was making a bunch of sales, more than they ever were, and they're benefiting from it. And I didn't know when they were going to retire. So that feeling of resentment came up. So what would I do now? Well, I took some advice from Linda Vaughn, who's a past president of Reese Nichols, and she taught me to give everything 90 days and I would know, then decide. So it gave me a decision deadline. So now I give myself even a decision deadline. Because you know, when you have a deadline, you get things done, right? If you don't have a deadline, they linger forever. An agreement I would do now would have a 90-day trial and an 18-month deadline. Mistake two, we had no defined compensation for the business, right? We split commissions. We split commissions. Matter of fact, I didn't buy it at all. I earned my way in. I showed up like an operator, not a checkbook. So it was sweat equity, competence, and leadership. I agreed to step in and run a majority of the business for only 33% for 3 years. What would I do now? I'd set up a value for the database with a deposit and earn the rest out. It's flexible and predictable. Uh, and database deals, uncapped percentages just punished me for being successful. So since there was no cap on what I'd be paying them, I just kept paying and paying and paying. But to be quite honest, I would have paid much more for that business. But under a percentage deal, your cost rises with your competence. So that's kind of backwards. Buyers don't discount businesses because they paid too much. They discount them because the math is messy. So that's why we started out with that math, so we could clear up on what that math needed to be. Now, most retiring realtors, they don't have a clean profit and loss. Anybody here have a monthly P&L, right? No, that's not common practice in real estate. But you are a small business with a value. You have a value with a multiplier. So a lot of agents also don't separate salary from profit. We don't track an EBITDA, right? All the earnings and all those crazy reports. But we do have something extremely valuable, a producing database. So that's why I have my legacy exchange. I keep a database of buyers and sellers of databases. And we don't pretend that it's a perfect business. We evaluate the behavioral revenue, not accounting perfection like a P&L. So people are like, I don't have the perfect business. Nobody does. But when time and money is vague, expectations grow wild. People start imagining what they think they deserve, and frustration sets in. So, clarity around compensation isn't just financial, it's also emotional security. And we have to admit, we all need that, and especially the retiring agent. So, we don't want to be vague at all. Three, oh yeah, let's talk about the small business valuation because I was talking about this in mistake two, where we didn't know the value. So earlier we talked about how to value your database, right? Down to the penny. Well, okay, Dawn, that's how a realtor has value, but how do other small businesses value before they sell? So small businesses have a multiple. They call it the multiplier. So every business has kind of a multiplier, and it's often between 2 times and 4 times the annual income or a multiple of the annual revenue. So common methods include the earnings multiplier, market-based comparisons. Well, none of this really goes to a realtor, right? There's really not much on the web either about realtors buying other realtors' business. So there's no multiplier. But it could be fair to assume that a database business could have a 1 or 1.5 times multiplier for their annual revenue. Does that sound like that would be a possibility, right? It's a little interesting. So think about it when it comes to numbers. Now, Kenny, would you say that you got a referral, right? So would you pay, or I should say, would you invest $3,000, like a referral fee, for a $10,000 check?
Let me see if I understand right.
Would you invest $300 to get 10 or $3,000 to get $10,000 back? Like you do for a referral. Yeah, okay. Would you invest 10,000 for the opportunity to make 100,000 more within the year? Maybe. Okay. And there's a yes. There's a yes. 10,000, like maybe you make a $10,000 deposit on a $100,000 house and it pays off in 1 year. Yeah, I'd pay $10,000 for a $100,000 house that paid off in 1 year. Craziness. And then it continues to provide $100,000 more year after year. 10 years, that's $1 million property for you. It's brought you $1 million profit in 10 years by making 100 grand a year. Woo, that's an investment, right?
Yeah.
So when we look at the numbers like that and how other businesses are sold, it makes a little bit more sense, especially when you would pay a percentage for our referrals. We start getting used to that. Okay. So a common multiplier for small business would be anywhere from 1.5 times to 3 times. Mistake number 3. We never created job descriptions. Who's doing what? No, we did not have written roles. No, I didn't have SOPs back then. No responsibilities listed. So there's no clarity on who did what exactly. Now, I knew that Donna did all the billing, but I didn't know how she did it. There were no SOPs in place. So when she retired out, I really struggled to pick up what she was doing. It wasn't good. And we were constantly kind of stepping on each other's toes. I'd think, I thought you were handling this. And they'd say, I thought you were handling it. But the truth, ambiguity breeds resentment again in a partnership. So, a good legacy partnership must have role clarity, just like a high functioning team. So, what is it you like to do? What is it you would want to do when you're adopting? What do you bring to that table? So, you need to set clear expectations and SOPs. So, do you have SOPs for your current business that you're doing now? Do you have what you need automated before you take on someone else's database? Clear job descriptions are found in those SOPs, standard operating procedures that can be handed off. But again, if we don't know these, this can build resentment. Mistake number 4, our personalities clashed. I was just so excited to have somebody bet on me because I wasn't from here. I didn't have a database. I didn't know anyone. So adopting into 3 databases, I instantly had credibility by being partnered with them. And then I had leads and I had people to talk to and had business coming in. But we didn't do any fancy disc, right? We didn't know even how people communicated or if they communicated, which was the hardest part because I think the older the partner, the less the communication. And the more that they're dwindling out, the less of the communication. So by using DISC, we can evaluate communication styles and more importantly, stress responses. And because of that, small issues can be avoided, right? Um, because how you communicate and how someone wants to be communicated with are 2 different things. They communicated one way and I communicated another. Heck, when I started with Paul, he was still carrying a beeper on his belt. I'm like, okay. They slowed down under pressure. I sped up. We didn't have a shared rhythm. And that misalignment cost us time and energy and peace. And so we didn't get a time to discuss it. And so, why DISC matters in that database transition is that it's a relationship handoff. It's not necessarily just a sale, but the relationships they're handing off are used to being communicated as well. So it predicts how each person is going to respond to you and you to them. So without it, expectations are assumed, communication breaks down, and resentment quietly builds. Another thing that builds, you start seeing a pattern of resentment, right? That's why partnerships break up. But when you know their dispersonality type and you have this feedback that you know what to expect from them when they're moving slow and they're moving fast, roles become clearer and friction gets reduced and trust transfers so that you can do your parties together and your meet and greets with that database together because the clients want to see a symbiotic relationship. And so when you know the other party's diss style, you can assign specific responsibilities. We choose the right compensation structure and we decide how long the retiring agent stays involved. That prevents that emotional blow up that's really disguised as business issues. It's not business issues, it's personality issues. So where we use the disc is before you do deals. It's learning the person before you write up the agreement and stepping into it and defining who does what in the transition. Creating those role descriptions for that retiring agent. What is it do they still want to do? Um, Designing earn out triggers that match the behavioral styles, right? So if they decide they want to stop making calls or texts or they don't want to do a face to face, well, you can't ignore that because you're going to pay for that later. They need to be just as involved in transitioning those partnerships to you. So you want someone that's going to be in it to win it with you. They want to leave you a legacy. They want to leave an impact in you. And they're willing to show up to client parties to do the handoff, right? 2 client parties in 1 year is plenty to get you handed off. Mistake number 5, Technology became a battle instead of a tool. So the partnership was not stressful because of the money, because money was coming in. It struggled because of technology. That was the whole reason they wanted to get out of the business. The technology was moving too fast and they were too tired and they didn't want to do it anymore. And so, as the technology evolved, more friction grew. They were overwhelmed, and I was accelerating. They were struggling with their tasks in technology while I'm out there making more sales. So, instead of technology being a tool or a bridge that made everything easier, it actually became a dividing line. And they were like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. Dang it, why didn't we talk about that in the beginning, right? But it was that technology of it that shut them down. It was a silent killer, and it can be in yours. The retiring agent, how did how do you think retiring agents feel with AI coming into real estate now? How do you feel about it, right? Like there's all kinds of technology. And so it starts to overwhelm them and create its own type of tension. It's not just about CRMs or software. To them, it became identity. What did they start feeling? Invisible. They
Hmm.
couldn't do it. Technology feels like a loss of control. And when they start losing control over their business, that's when they start getting a little bit of anxiety. Every new system um, felt like proof they were being replaced. And they were afraid of looking incompetent in front of other agents and clients that they have served for decades. They're going against agents who pop open their laptop and go through a listing presentation. Well, they don't even do listing presentations, right? So, for the buyer, for you guys that want to adopt a database, technology equals scale, consistency, survival, right? We have to use the technology. And you're going to be trying to protect the relationships and build a future. So every workaround when you're doing this just feels like more and more friction that you don't have time for. And it's reasonable, right? And it's not wrong to feel that way, but without a plan, they collide, okay? Technology didn't cause the conflict, it exposed the gap. So when one person moves faster, the other person freezes. And if you haven't noticed, I like to move fast. I like to get stuff done. And without um, who was responsible for technology and some of their items they were responsible for was on technology, I just hopped in and did it. And I'd be like, oh, I can just do it. Oh, I can just do it. Oh, I can just do it. And they felt replaced. And that became more resentful. Decisions would stall, communication would break down, trust eroded quietly. They'd all go to lunch without me, right? I'm like, oh, I must be the young gun in here just tearing stuff up. And maybe to my face, they're smiling, but I really wondered what they thought of me because it wasn't friendly. I mean, I think it's silly, but it kind of hurt my feelings. They'd all go to lunch with, they'd go to lunch every day, maybe not necessarily together, but they never invited me, and I'd invite them, and they'd have some to do. And so it's one of those things that the enemy can get in your head if you let emotions get involved. And the more we have written out in expectations, the less of those emotions that can creep up on us, right? So, a good legacy partnership does require some tech capability and compatibility. And then you got to work through that compatibility together. But you don't have to have matching skill levels, okay? You don't need that. You just need matching expectations, okay? And when it comes to technology, oh, there's mistake 6. They were slowing down, I was speeding up. See, I got so fast. Okay, 4 structures that prevent a collision. Well, I want to go over these tech questions really fast because I want to come back around to tech because that made such a difference, and it's going to be a difference maker for those that are adopting a database. Who owns the system decisions? That's a big one, right? They're going to come in with a database. You're going to have a database. Your database is probably going to be more robust with systems in place. So who owns the system decisions? More than likely, they will defer to the younger buck in the room. You don't know, but maybe they own the decisions for a certain period of time. Maybe for the first 90 days that you guys are deciding if this is going to work or not. Not forever, not vaguely, but specifically. If this is defined, you're going to guard against that resentment. When does the other person take over decisions about the technology? What tech is mandatory versus optional? Okay? What tech do you have to make this work? Does your seller or the buyer of the business require non-negotiable tools? A lot of tools are just temporary. So what tools do we no longer need? And what's going to get phased out? No assumptions. No, we'll figure it out. You got to commit to a CRM and you got to figure out if they are too. The database, the technology, that can blow it up. And then have a sunset plan. Every legacy needs a date where logins transfer, access changes, and responsibility shifts. Okay? A sunset date. Logins transfer, access changes, and responsibility shifts. When do you have the power and control? And without a sunset, people linger. Lingering kills momentum. I had 2 that lingered and lingered and lingered, and it was a very tough conversation. Like, imagine trying to remodel a house, while the previous owner keeps rearranging the furniture. That's kind of what unmanaged tech feels like in a partnership, right? Like, you keep moving things on me. Are we using that? Are we not using that? And if technology becomes a battle, it's not a people problem, it's a planning problem. And so much can be avoided with planning, but planning is tough. So you got to set it aside because it could be a huge opportunity. And having a legacy doesn't require you both to move at the same speed. It just requires everyone to know who's driving, who's navigating, and when do the keys change hands. That was a big one. Technology should like carry that relationship forward and not pull it apart, but I have seen them pulling it apart. Okay. Mistake 6, they were slowing down as I was speeding up. There was a lot of tension there. It was a lot of tension as I was trying to sell a lot and they were getting frustrated. Paul walked in one day and threw his keys across the room and just cussed me up one side and down the other. And that's so not like him. But don't we all know we act kind of weird and irrational sometimes when we're overstressed? Yeah. Here's the thing. That tension wasn't failure, it's a phase. He was slowing down. Every adoption or succession plan has this moment. One person's excited and exciting, and we're going, and I'm like, I've never sold this much in my life. And the other person is exiting and slowing down. That alone creates friction, right? Even in healthy relationships. So it's the reality of two different trajectories. The senior partner's trajectory, they're going to start wanting fewer hours. So don't expect them to work as much as you do. They're going to have less urgency. So they're not going to respond to calls and texts and emails as fast as you do. And they're going to do more reflection on what worked in business and what didn't. They're also going to have much more emotional attachment to that database and those people than you will. So what they're asking is, how do I protect my reputation? Okay. How do you help them protect their reputation? They're also asking, how do I stay relevant without staying stuck? They feel stuck, burned out, tired, and they want to know how to exit and retire with dignity. The successor trajectory, someone that's ready to buy into a database, well, you're going to have more urgency. You're like, I want to do it now, do it now, do it now. We love W. Clement Stone. Do it now. They're just going to want all the systems in place so that you can slide that business in. So you have to get your systems in place, and you're going to have more growth pressure. So the pressure you're going to feel is, how can I get this database producing as fast as possible? And you're going to be taking on most of the responsibility. So you're asking, how can I scale this before it stalls? Because in that discussion about Anne, she went from 22 sales a year to 12 sales a year. So her business is starting to stall, right? So an adopter of that database needs to hop in and scale it before it stalls. And you're going to think, how can I prove that I can carry this? Don't you want to feel like you deserve to step in someone's business? They should be able to look at your database and know that you have people and you're organized and you're reaching out to them so that their people won't just be plugged into some automation and that's it. They want to know that you're going to honor those relationships. So if you have a good plan written out where you can show them how you're going to be doing your touches with their database and spending one-on-one time with them, they're going to trust you with those relationships. But without structure, slowing down looks like avoidance to us, but slowing down to them is what they need to do. Where speeding up could look like disrespect. Silence gets interpreted as intent. And we have to communicate so that they don't have those voices in their head telling them something that's not true. My momentum that I had, and I was going really hard and going out and meeting all these clients, and I flew around the country to meet some clients. My momentum got misinterpreted as takeover. And I had to sit down and go over the plan because it can feel overwhelming when someone hops in and feels they got to scale as fast as possible. So that's how good partnerships feel safe. The issue doesn't become speed anymore, lack of it, or too much of it. It becomes lanes, lack of lanes. What is your lane? What is my lane? Highways don't fail because cars move at different speeds. They fail when there's no clear lanes, exits, or signals or signs, right? So, intentional structure. Okay, so the 4 structures that prevent collision. Define time horizon. Okay, everyone needs to know, when does their involvement reduce? When do they no longer have to do this thing? When do the decision rights transfer? We need to have a defined time horizon. When do the relationships change? Open-ended timelines create emotional whiplash. I'm not gonna. I changed my mind, right? I'm gonna leave. I'm thinking I'm gonna leave in 3 years, and 3 years comes and goes. It happens. So you have to have it written out in an agreement. Decision-making authority by phase. So what if decisions, the authority isn't a forever, but a phase? Maybe phase 1. The first 90 days, you have shared decisions. Phase 2, buyer-led decisions. Whoever's buying the database has decisions. And then phase 3, seller advisory only, right? When does the seller just become an advisor to that business? If you don't have these 3 phases, or the phase 1, the shared, and then when it switches to buyer led, and when it turns completely to seller as advisor only, if you don't have those, the speed can feel threatening. Again, that speed needs to have the lanes. And as long as it's in a lane, it doesn't feel threatening. 3, communication cadence. Slowing down partners prefer fewer conversations. They don't want to be as involved. They don't want to hear about every showing and what that person did, and then how the negotiations went and what they asked for in their inspections. They want fewer conversations, but they want deeper conversations, like uh, which people in the database need more touching, and what do they know about the people, and they want the deeper kind of conversations, but they don't want to hear about the day to day, right? But the speeding partner, you guys that want to adopt a database, you want it a lot, because you want help going through some things. And then you want to let them know about all the tactical updates you've made, right? This new software you brought in, and you want to tell them all this. And if this cadence hasn't been agreed on, some kind of weekly reporting or monthly reporting, if you don't have something agreed upon, both of these people can feel like ignored, or what they're doing isn't valued. So having a weekly report on Fridays of who was reported to and what was done in the strategy of the business, right? Something in between for the both of you. This was a biggie to me. Defined success metrics. How do you know if your partnership is working? I love the operations of business because I love tracking the numbers. Realtors, you guys don't like tracking the numbers so much. That's been my experience. That's why I have my coaching group where we come together as a mastermind group and do our numbers together, right? It's that important. But when you're working with someone, how do you know you're being successful if you don't have a metric? Something like the client responses. How many clients responded out of your most recent notification? If Kenny bought Maurice's business, Kenny would want to know How many of my database people responded to that email? Maurice would want to know how many of Kenny's people responded to that email that announced that we're going together in a partnership, or at least opened it so I know to reach out to those people, right? A metric of client response to the messaging of the partnership. How many face-to-face introductions will they do? How many phone calls? Who will get phone calls? Who will get visits? Who will come to the client appreciation parties? How many transactions get closed? How many are expected? How do you measure if someone's reputation is being protected? What metric could you use? Because they're worried that, they want to retire with dignity and that their reputation doesn't get tarnished. So, what metric could you use to make sure that doesn't happen?
You want to take a stab at it? Things like Google reviews.
There you go. I love it. That's a great one. Whoosh, I wish I had confetti. I'd throw it. Yes, right? So there's simple things that can be done and measured so that we're all confident this partnership is working. They might be running at different speeds, but you need a shared scorecard. Okay? It's like merging onto a highway. One car's exiting and one car's accelerating. If they don't signal clearly, both hit the brakes or crash. So, legacy isn't built by moving at the same speed. It's knowing who's accelerating, who's exiting, and when the handoff happens. So, when expectations between each person is clear, it actually speeds up the momentum, right? So we got to a point where they did this, I did this. And then I got to where I just did more and more and more over time. Well, I didn't mind it because I knew I was taking over the business, but I could see where somebody could get upset at the point I didn't do that. So having those job descriptions early makes a big difference. And slowing down yourself as a successor, that becomes wisdom too. Trust can transfer cleanly, but it fails when timing is emotional instead of operational. Okay. And that's what happens is some realtors wait until they just can't do it anymore. And then it becomes emotional and we don't have anything. Okay. These mistakes can be really painful, but when necessary, there's a framework for it. Now, let's see, the three pillars of a legacy agreement. Because when you're choosing someone, buying someone's database, I mean, you got to ask yourself a lot of questions, okay? Do I even trust them? Do I trust them? Do we have structure? Do we have clarity? Do we have alignment? Do we have a finish line? Do we have role definitions? Do our personalities even complement each other, right? All of these, every unclear moment you have has to become a checklist. And every breakdown between the two parties has to become a system so that every frustration becomes a tool. Okay? So let's go through the best tool of the agreement. And this will be the last part, so that please don't hesitate to ask questions on the agreement part too, because it really helps you think through what kind of partnership you would want to have. Okay, purchase amount. You're going to buy somebody's business. So How do you come up with a purchase amount? What are the relationships worth and how is that value transferred? So we're not buying a balance sheet, right? We're buying trust, access, behavioral momentum inside a database. What are those buyers and sellers doing right now? Are they warm? So the valuations that we consider, that historical production pattern, right? Not perfect accounting, but like in the story of Anne, she sold 22 properties one year and 12 properties the other year. So I like to look at the last three and see how it's trending. Is it up? Is it down? Is it all over the place? What's the average? And what's the most recent year? What is their consistency of repeat and referral behavior from their database? How much do they get? And the depth of the client relationships. Like, do they really spend time? Do they know these people or are they just Facebook friends? Right? Have you had a transaction with them before? Or are they someone you know, an acquaintance? How responsive is that database? If I sent an email, what would be the open rate? If I dropped a text, would I get a response? If we invited them to a client party, would they show up? Have you had them in the past? And it's really based on the quality of the introductions and endorsements as well. Is that seller going to introduce me to their top 100? Are they going to do introductory calls? Mine did introductory calls. Every person got called, and then I went to meet each person. Now, this isn't a salary, right? We know it's not a salary. We eat what we kill. This isn't compensation for the work you're doing. This is payment for the relationship transfer. And there's common structures, right? Like you could do a fixed buyout, clean, capped, predictable. An earn out tied to adoption milestones. I did an earn out. And then there's hybrid models where you could do a small upfront and a capped earnout. What kind of offer would you like to make would be ideal? What kind of partnership is ideal for you? And use these other common structures as negotiating tools. Maybe they don't want to do a flat earnout, but would they be intrigued by $10,000 for their $100,000 database and then cap the earnout at $100,000 with a percentage of 30 going to that client that goes towards the buyout, right? You use these different options as negotiation tools for your agreement. But first, I want you to know, what would you do, right? What would you do in your agreement? And what is the realistic adoption upside? I could not quantify the upside I had from my database. I couldn't. It was beyond my wildest dreams. Not so, not so, not so. So you can tell the realistic adoption upside by using the database calculator. There's a link in the chat box, and Mark, maybe you could drop that again so that you can evaluate the upside of someone's database. Okay, time period. How long does trust realistically take to transfer? It's not about patience, it's about behavior change. Okay. So, this pillar, the time periods, how long the retiring agent remains visible. How long are they going to stay on the marketing? I like an 18-monther. I like that. I know I can turn a database, get a lot of attention from a database, and make a big impact in 18 months. But when does the authority shift of making decisions? Who's making them? When? And the systems, right? And tech and decision making, the time period over the systems. When does the compensation start and when does it stop? I didn't even have that in my agreement. Isn't that ridiculous? When do I stop paying them? Wasn't even in an agreement. And when did I finally get to carry the brand? Wasn't in an agreement. So you can see now where I had all this I could have had a lot more friction than I did. It was more of they were slowing down, I was speeding up, continued to get in. I let kind of make me anxious. But knowing that is a phase and that's an emotion that's going to come from all of these items that can totally be avoided by having a good, solid agreement up front. And I recommend having a good, solid proposal up front, an offer that you are willing to provide someone when you meet them. You'll be like, oh, I have got to take that person to coffee and ask them, so what are your plans when you decide to stop selling? It's that simple. Now, a time period. What kind of time period? Mine was 3 years. So a typical time frame could, golly, be 30 to 90 days. Introduction, the positioning phase, right? Around 6 to 12 months. It's that active warm transfer. And then 24 to 36 months should be the capped out window, right? It should be paid off in 24 to 36 months if you're doing some kind of cap. But open-ended timelines, I will hugely discourage, okay? That is what created the resentment. And then terms. Come on, we're in real estate. We know everything is negotiable, right? So here's where you can get a little bit more flexible. So, who controls these decisions and when does that change? Your technology, right? Your client communication expectations. Who is going to be talking to the clients and when? Are we, let's see here. Are we introducing in time? Do we have all the introductions done? What constitutes a warm lead? What are your compensation triggers? Heck, minimum participation requirements. So if I was selling my database, a minimum participation requirement for me would be the first 3 months, maybe. Yeah, the first 90 days. I want to go on the initial buyer's meeting and the initial listing appointment. How are they? Are they good at what they do? Or did I just hand my business off to someone that doesn't know what they're doing? You want to see what the client experiences in the first 90 days. What kind of relationship is this going to be? Right? Sunset. When does everything sunset? What is the exit path? Both sides. Okay. What if this relationship doesn't work? What is the exit plan? That's why we love that first 90 days, right? So we want those 90 days to kind of feel it out. It's not permanent forever. but this is where most of the deals die. Okay. Clarity is kindness. Undefined roles create emotion, right? And emotional exits. And it's sad, and you want to stay friends. Purchase sets the value, time sets the pace, terms prevent the crash. Okay? So, not all structures carry the same risk. So, the three pillars translate into three different legacy structures. So, like option one, you have a fixed buyout, purchase outright. Option two, a structured partnership with a time-bound exit. And option three, a capped referral, adoption earnout. So there's three options. You can try to massage in your different ways, okay? So option one, say you did a purchase outright, fixed buyout. Like, I don't see that happening. I haven't, but it's an option, right? So how the pillars show up. Your purchase amount gets agreed upon in the very beginning, okay? And it's kind of based on that adoption potential. The time period would be short. This would be a very structured transition. Say you want in and them out. This is going to be a 30 to 90 day transition. And then terms, woo, they better be clearly defined because that authority transfer and exits moving fast. So it needs to be really clear and defined. And this is really best for agents who truly are ready to step away. Say you met someone that's like, I am moving to Arizona in November and it's August, right? So it's someone that really wants to cut and run. It's a clean exit without minimal ongoing involvement. So if you want something like that, look for an agent that's retiring and moving away because then they have no option but to hand you all the business because they're not here to take care of it. And this really is the cleanest structure, but it only works with a very deliberate transition plan. Um, and money doesn't replace the introductions. So they still have to do the introductions. Now, option two, a structured partnership. Okay. So this is a guided transition with guardrails, and the retiring agent stays involved for like a defined time period, and the successor gains the momentum while working alongside them. And so the purchase amount is often a hybrid, right? It can be partial upfront and a capped earnout, but it's going to have money come in from different ways. And the time period, it needs to be clearly defined. I'd put it between 6 to 24 months, whatever that seller is feeling comfortable with. Terms and roles and decision authority, all of that has to be cleared. And protecting long-term relationships, this is helpful. And some buyouts have the seller, it's almost like a reverse team, where the seller of the database goes on the buyer of the database's team. And if they sell something from their database, they pay the team leader that split, right? So that way they are paying you into the from the database, you're still getting paid from that, even if they decide they want to close a couple of deals. Say it's their sister and they want to do it. Well, they're going to owe you the commission split that you agreed upon. So you don't have to cut the old agent off at the knees and they can no longer sell real estate. You can set up an option so that they can receive a percentage if they do sell from that database. And if you've partnered on the marketing or if you're paying for all the marketing, what would be fair? Option three, capped referral, adoption, earnout. Monetization with limits. I like this. The successor adopts the database and compensates the seller based on those milestones. Again, it needs to be milestones in commission. And you might have a purchase amount, or it could be flat out zero, like mine was. Mine didn't have a capped payout though, and that drove me insane. I didn't have a finite earnout window either. They just said, a couple of them said, we might retire in the next 3 years. That was it. So it became a little more difficult. And so that's why I'm such an advocate over clear definitions, reporting standards, and end dates, right? Because this could be good for agents that aren't really ready to fully sell, but wants to do a little bit of it. Buyers are willing to assume more adoption risk in a database when they're paying out of their earnouts. It's rev share and not having to put anything down, right? Kenny, would you be more likely to buy into a database if you didn't have to put anything down? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that is one of those options that you might be like, this would be my play. This is the offer I would give to someone. Now, you don't want to have uncapped referral splits, right? Because they punish that success and they erode the long-term value. If it grows, you could spiral. Like it's tough when you're making the money and pushing forward and you feel like other people are dragging you down. But if those terms are set out, you don't have that kind of resentment. All of these structures work until it doesn't, right? The right one depends on your risk tolerance because you are taking a risk. Your timing, are you prepared to do this now? Are they prepared to do this now? And clarity. And so that's what I want to bring is that clarity, okay? So if you want certainty and an exit, I recommend option one. If you want continuity with boundaries, option two. But if you want monetization without ownership transfer, option three. It's easy to just massage each one once you find a base that works for you. Because, like we said, everything is negotiable, right? And so you want to take that with you into these conversations. Now, when we start in this business, no one hands us a roadmap for the end. But you have to know what the end is to know how to get there. We get trained on how to start, how to get leads, how to survive, how to hustle. But no one sits down and says, okay, one day this business you're building is going to matter to someone else just as much as it mattered to you. Okay? No one teaches us that every conversation, every client, every hard season as an agent is quietly building something bigger than a commission check. It's building a legacy of trust, a legacy of relationships, a legacy of people whose lives are forever different because you showed up for them. They earned incredible equity in their home. The truth is, right? You didn't just build a business, you built a chapter in someone else's future. And I want to say this with absolute clarity. Nothing you have built has been wasted. Nothing that you've built has been wasted. Too many people scrap and start over, scrap and start over. But not a moment has been wasted. Not a client, not a setback, not a win. Okay? Everything you've done has led you to this exact moment. A moment where you're like, I might be able to step in and help someone. Your years of service, dedication, and care, it's all valuable. It's valuable. And you're building that up. And someone else has built that equity in their database. But I want you to stop seeing your business as a treadmill and transactional, that it's a treadmill you got to stay on and keep going and keep going and keep going. I want you to start looking at your business as an asset, something that you can sell, share, pass on, scale, right? I want you to see it as a business asset. You're standing at the doorway of possibility, and on the other side of the doorway is so much opportunity. There's a future where your business is going to pay you back, where you don't start from zero every January. I want your legacy to live on. I want you to do it even when you choose to finally rest. A future where someone else gets to grow because of what you've built, right? You get to grow off of what somebody else has built and all of that momentum. There's so much opportunity here that brokerages don't talk about. And future your future is bigger than your fear, and your potential is bigger than your past. And you have a legacy, and your business is worth more than you realize or were ever told. I don't want you to become listless. You're not too late. You're not too messy. You're not too behind. You're not just a realtor, okay? You're the architect of something extraordinary. And today you learned how to protect it, to honor it, and turn it into something that outlives you. I want it to outlive you. I can't believe what opportunity I had and what an impact my predecessors made in my life. I would have done more, I would have paid more. Looking back with 2020, I made millions from their database. So I want to leave you here with one thing burning in your heart, okay? Hope. Hope that your best chapters aren't behind you, and hope that your business has value, and hope that there's opportunity for you to step into someone else's momentum and warm leads, and hope that the world wants what you built, right? And hope that you're not alone in figuring it out, because I'm in this with you. I love this, if you can't tell. I'm in this with you. Marta's in this with you. Kim's in this with you. The team is in this with you. Your legacy, don't let it slip away. It's actually starting now if you decide. What you leave behind is not what is engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others. Pericles. Here's Warren Buffett. Someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree long ago. Y'all know that one, right? Are you leaving listless or a legacy? You've got to start working on that business now. And I want you to say, hey, I'm a legacy. I want you to own it now that you're leaving a legacy, okay? How many of you enjoyed the master class so far? You guys doing okay? Yay! Okay, I've got a thumbs up. I love it. All right. Okay, I know a lot of you are asking what's next. So, is it okay with you if I share how Marta and I want to serve you with this kind of a master class? Give me a yes in the chat box or hop in and say, yeah, tell me about it. But, okay, there's Maurice. He said yes. Okay. Well, it's not for everyone, but it's going to be perfect for some of you. Are you ready to grow your business? Yes? Okay. Are you doing it consistently enough to get the results you're capable of? Are you doing all the things you need to be doing consistently? Because most agents at your level don't have a knowledge problem. You have a consistency problem. You guys know what to do. It just all needs to get implemented. And some of you might have strong months and then things slow down. You get busy, you fall off of your systems, you know what works. It just, you do some things, but you don't do them every week. And then the frustration comes in because you know you're capable of more, but you just can't stay consistent. Well, the issue isn't strategy, it's not even leads, it's not even effort. It's that you're doing this alone without structure, without someone actually seeing your numbers week to week, without you seeing your numbers week to week. So we came up with a solution called the Elite Agent Execution Lab. Okay, so this isn't more training or more ideas. It's a performance environment where we track the numbers every week, you mastermind with other agents, and you report your activity every week, and you're held accountable to what you say you want to do. Okay? I know it sounds scary. It's an accountability group, but it's so much more than that. And I have Shelly Cole and Tracy and Todd Burtz on here who currently work with me in this kind of environment. Shelly's been with me for like 4 years or more, and Tracy and Todd over a year. And Marta came to me and she's like, Don, what's working? And I'm like, it is our weekly group coaching. It's like a weekly mastermind. I provide a business dashboard where we track all of our numbers and our KPIs so we can see where we need to lean in and where we need to lean out. But having that group mastermind, I asked Shelly and Tracy to hop in today to see if they would chime in a little bit about this kind of a group. Shelly, can you unmute and talk about what you've gained from being part of the group mastermind?
I have gained more, definitely more accountability, more consistency. I have been in coaching for with different people, but Dawn helps me keep track. She does a good thing, a good job of also keeping track, so it's not just on me. Um, and she really gets on me if I'm not doing it. And I have been working with her and known her for a while too, so it feels more personable as well. That it's not just somebody in California making a big paycheck from a big company that who could care less about me at all. So yeah.
Okay, I love it. I love it. So emotionally, what has this done for you? When you
Um,
go in and you leave, how do you feel going in and how do you feel leaving the group mastermind?
Sometimes I feel going in, I feel sweaty and and a little like, oh crud, I have not hit my numbers and this is gonna suck. But it also is great. I love having Tracy and Todd and some other agents because I hear what they're doing, so it adds motivation. Um, and that was even when we had some other agents on. I learn, I get ideas from what other people are doing and some kind of, and also encouragement from other people, new ideas, uh, different things, and also some, camaraderie, that sometimes working in an environment like we do with the United, uh, and not having offices and seeing people day to day, just feeling some camaraderie to be able to join together with some agents to start off the week. It's nice.
Yeah, you know what you got to do that week, right? You're like,
Yeah,
okay. I
yeah,
remember in real estate, I'd show up on Mondays to the office and be like, okay, what am I supposed to do now?
yeah,
I have
yeah,
so many things I could be doing. I didn't know which ones to be doing first or spend the most amount of time on.
yes.
and I didn't know where my business was coming from sometimes. Thank you, Shelley. Thank you. Tracy, can you share?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I sure can.
Okay. Yeah, Todd and I are both here, and I'm going to speak for myself at the moment, but I can be a very big procrastinator. And it's easy to in real estate when you don't have somebody looking over your shoulder. It's really easy to not make calls for a week or two and rationalize why you haven't done that. But when we get on these calls, I was dreading the accountability in the beginning because, I didn't really want somebody calling me out on what I hadn't done. But after a year of we try to be on there every single Monday if there's any way possible. After a year of doing this, I look forward to it now because I know that Dawn is going to tell me, and Tracy, what did you do last week? Why didn't you make your calls? What stopped you? How are we going to change your behavior this week? And I know that that is affecting my business for the good. And I really look forward to it because it does keep me on track and it does keep me focusing on the things that I should be focusing on. And when I start to focus on the minutia that I can waste a lot of time on, I hear your voice in my head going, is that really going to move the needle this week? And so it makes me stop and try to do the other things. So I mean, for all the other agents in the room, Don has taken our business and increased it so much in the past, even about a year and a half, and it's wonderful to feel like you have, a CEO on your business that's working there, that's watching the bottom line, that's watching the pipeline, that's watching, not only what's happening today, but what's going to happen in 30 days. And that's where this dashboard and the calls and tracking our numbers really starts to make the numbers happen, because she's going to say things like, gosh, you haven't made your calls yet. So if you haven't made your calls, what are your listings going to look like? How many active buyers? If you don't have any active buyers, and it really does help to monetize things in your head. Did you follow up with that lead? Well, if you didn't, you paid $4 for that, that lead on all of the advertising we're placing. So, if you didn't follow up with that, you just put $4 in the trash can. Those kind of things really bring it home to me the way that I wasn't processing it on my own. So I really do value the coaching and the presence in my business.
Thank you, Tracy.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
So yeah, so I think for me it's very much all that. However, I think if we really think about, if we call ourselves professionals, every single successful professional in the world maintains a coach, whether it's a top CEO, whether it's an athlete. And I think there's a bit of a dismissal and an arrogance on some of our parts, and we think we've got it. And maybe you do, but you don't have it enough. And so it's not a matter of what being a part of something like this would cost. It's a matter of the missing opportunity value that you have. And you're definitely missing value in it's a lack of investment in your business. And I think it is much needed. And if you're serious, I think you plug into this, and I don't think you ever unplug from it. I think there's always a reason to have somebody to bounce good ideas off of, and whether it's your motivation, whether it's direction. I will tell you that it's what you do when you're serious about serious about being a professional and earning a consistent income, and it's paid dividends.
The other thing that I'm going to piggyback on what Shelley said is the camaraderie is awesome, and I love it. It's like we have a dedicated mastermind every Monday morning for an hour, and we really get to know each other and each other's business, and it's so positive. There are some real estate agents that aren't necessarily, they don't want to share. They want to, they're scared if they talk too much about what's in the special sauce. And I feel like this makes all of us grow stronger together and bounce ideas off each other, and it's really great.
Yep.
The other thing that I was gonna say is the way that Don has helped us to see our database. I didn't sit on the entire call so far. I have sat in, Todd and I both, and have sat in on this call before, so we've heard the Don's talk, and she is so dead on right. But we didn't really have our database put together until we got with Dawn, and she has helped us to put our database together and focus on who is reading our emails, who is looking at our ads, who do we need to be contacting, every time we're out there, every so many weeks, months, or whatever. And it has really turned our business around where we are pretty much 100% SOI based on all of our leads. And that's really been helpful and so important to our business.
That is so cool. Man, when it goes 100% SOI, you're like, yes, 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 I like working with these people, unless you have nasty friends. Then you need to get new friends. Thank you, Tracy and Todd. I love it. Tracy and Todd are the best about really investing into their database. And here's the truth. It took me a good 6 months to get Todd to focus on the database because he liked those lists and he is a good salesperson. So his thought was, I'm going to take a list and I'm going to make the calls. And he knows sales and he's good at sales, but he doesn't enjoy those kind of sales. He enjoys working with his friends. And I think he found that he enjoys the job a lot more now.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I tell you, I'm a fairly analytical mind. I like to really process and be strategic. And yet in doing that, there are times I got lost and I went down rabbit holes and got a little bit lost in my analysis. And it was great to have an objective opinion come in and ask you, really, what were you trying to get from that? And what do you enjoy doing? And those things are, I just, it's so easy to lose we're in a fractured environment. Like we said, we're all decentralized. We don't have this place to come like a lot of people do to constantly be around people that are positive and supportive, like as much as we would be. And that coaching and that environment that we have every week and on our business management calls is invaluable. So save me from wasting a ton of time
Yeah.
and help me really enjoy the work again.
Mm-hmm. Good, good. I love that. I love it when people have joy. That's right. So, and that's why this works. I mean, the truth is, you don't need more training. Most agents don't need more training. Everything can be found on video. Geez, just about, right? But you need a place where execution is expected because you guys work all by yourself and you can let yourself off the hook pretty easily. But when execution is expected by a group, just saying it, just writing it, it all has some power. So here's the investment. The investment is $600 a month for a weekly meeting, your business dashboard, behavioral coaching. But here's the cool part. Marta is going to sponsor half of that. So your portion would be $300 a month for accountability group. Okay? It's not like it's paying for coaching. This is about having structure that keeps you consistent so your business actually grows instead of resetting every month. Okay? Now, we went through a lot of items today. And for those of you that would like to join an accountability group, Mark, would you drop the sign-in sheet link into the chat box there? So if it's something that you're interested in doing, I do believe Marta said that the Zillow, those that will be taking leads from the office, like Zillow leads. She will eventually make an accountability group a requirement. So we're getting ahead of it by offering it now and her paying for half the cost. Now, I went over a lot of stuff today, okay? And you know what you need to do, but you might want help getting your database put together, putting your offer together, and creating a plan and looking for people. How could you do that? How could you put all that together? Well, it could take months if I had some kind of coaching program for that. And I don't like that. I like to condense it. So if you're interested in help with putting it all together, I do have a VIP day. So if you're interested in sitting down for a day to put everything together, Mark, would you drop my 30-minute consultation link into the chat box so you can reach out if that's something that interests you as well. Now, any questions? It was so much stuff. So much stuff. Maurice, did I overwhelm you? Kenny's still here. Hey, Kenny.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Type it.
Do you need help unmuting Kenny? I'm assuming that you have written a book or two, and if so, what are they? I have not. Apparently, I need to write a book, huh? Is it that good of information? Okay. Okay. Well, I guess I better get on that then, Kenny. Jeez. I didn't think I was that interesting. But I love telling everybody, like, look around, look around. It's all around you. The opportunity's all around you. But they are nervous about what they have. So I love that feedback. I think it's great. I really need to write my dang book so I can give it away. But I love this. So I'm here. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, I'm going to put my mobile in the chat box. So if anybody has questions, feel free to reach out. And I'm here in Kansas City, so if you want to grab lunch or pick my brain or something on this, feel free. Reach out. You got your 30-minute consult. But other than that, Shelly, thank you. Tracy and Todd, thank you for hopping in. We've had people in and out today, and so it's been interesting. Oh, you're on mute, Shelly.
Anyone has questions about anything I want to hear or ask more, but you don't want to ask Don. Reach out, feel free to shoot me an email or a text. Be happy to answer questions. I think she's great. I think the program's great. And it really is about what you need.
Yeah, yeah. What
Exactly.
works for you?
Todd and I are always available as well. And, the three of us are on the call with her every week, so we're all definitely fans and believe in this program. So feel free to reach out if you have questions or want references from us as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Everybody have a fabulous, fabulous day.